This is Chet.
You remember me, Chet Ripley?
How you doing?
This is his family.
You can run around here naked as a bear and not worry about running into anybody.
This is Roman.
What a gas.
This is his family.
I'm waiting for the heads to rotate around and vomit pea soup.
They're about to spend 1 week together in the great outdoors.
We weren't invited.
They'll be tickled to death to see us.
Who invited them anyway?
But this is no holiday.
The man is an ass!
This is war.
You wouldn't know a good time if it fell out of the sky, landed on your face, and started to wiggle.
Are you going to argue or are you going to enjoy yourself?
Dan Aykroyd. John Candy. The great outdoors. Outdoor fun for the whole family.
That had to hurt.
Hello, I'm Katie, and welcome to RetroMade, your pop culture rewind. We're continuing the season 2 John Hughes season, and so we're going to go back today to 1988 for another brilliant dose of John Candy, with John Hughes, of course, writing. And I'm happy to reintroduce all of you lovely listeners to a returning guest, Jared Tockstein from the Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th Century. Jared, thank you for coming back to join me for season 2.
Well, Katie, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to talk about the great outdoors.
Indeed. Tell us what's going on, what's new in your world of podcasting.
Well, the Hyperspace, me and the guys have kind of struggled to get it together since December. I think the last episode we put out was sort of like this Christmas episode. And then we do also do sort of reaction and review shows whenever Disney Plus puts out a new Star Wars TV show. And we put out one of those earlier this year. So we've done a series of episodes on the latest Star Wars TV series. But for the past probably 6 weeks or so, it's been pretty quiet at the Hyperspace Studios, but we're always talking about cranking it up again and starting to do it. But, you know, sometimes life happens and things get in the way, but it's not going anywhere. We're certainly going to be continuing to do episodes well into the future. So
glad to hear it. I mean, you got to continue on until at least the 25th century.
The 25th century.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Of course. I mean, that's non-negotiable.
Right.
So.
Well, I had inquired in the Breakfast Club episode because my school did not have Saturday detention, and neither did Ryan, my guest Ryan's. We had after school detention.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is this a thing? Is there detentions on Saturdays? Did your school have detention on Saturdays, Jared?
No, not that I never had to go to detention. I was a nerdy, good kid. So but it was mostly after school or in school suspension, they called it, where you had to come to school on a school day and sit in detention.
Which is a weird scenario. You're like double punishing. I mean, like you might as well educate the child if they're going to be there. At any rate, my friend Kelly, she informed me that her school did in fact have Saturday detention. So Thank you, Kelly, for letting the RetroMade show know that. And I'd love to hear from other people. Anyway, yeah, detention Saturday.
Wow. That's a fate worse than death for a school kid. Saturdays are sacred.
Without further ado, should we spin the wheel for this
Absolutely.
new
Forward
segment?
to this.
Yeah, we're going to open the time capsule, you guys. We're going back to June of 1988. I'm going to spin on your behalf. Let's see what we hit on. Ooh, it's a good one. VHS vault.
Okay.
Oh, 1988. It's a good year.
Yep.
Can you name the 5 top video rentals? So this is not at the big screen. Video rentals
of 1988.
Woman discovers love, passion, and the art of dancing at a summer resort.
Dirty Dancing.
Of course. A gritty action movie featuring a mismatched cop duo.
Tango and Cash.
No, that was 89.
Oh, crap.
Or it came out in 89. It was in L.A., battling criminals in L.A.
Oh, Lethal Weapon?
Yes.
Okay.
Intense psychological thriller about an affair that spirals.
Fatal Attraction.
Yes, good. You're good. Let's see. What can I give you a hint that won't give it away? It's a Prohibition era crime saga.
The Untouchables.
Yes. Last one. Supernatural romantic comedy. 3 women dabbling in witchcraft.
Is it the Cher?
Yes.
With the Witches of Eastwick.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Very
Man.
good. Very good, Jared.
Ooh.
The hints are too easy. I need to find harder hints. But yeah, you did
man.
very well.
Well, I you know what? I probably would not have landed on those had it not been for your help.
Let's spin it again.
Okay.
Pages of the Past.
Interesting.
I'm trying to find one that's not so easy.
Is this about books?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Or magazines.
Okay.
Like back to the bookshelf, Pages of the Past. Okay. Which early young adult horror books by R.L. Stein?
Goosebumps.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Let me do another one. Which satirical magazine, still going strong in 1988, continued to feature Alfred E. Newman with sharp-witted humor?
Mad Magazine.
I wouldn't have got that one. So
Really?
very good. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
unfamiliar with it.
Okay. I used to read it on occasion.
Okay. All right, let's spin another one. Return to Toon Time.
Oh.
Oh, there's so many. Okay. Which trio of high-pitched musical rodents continued their antics in 1988?
We're the Chipmunks. Coming
Alvin
on
and-
stronger than ever before.
Dang,
We're
you're
the Chipmunks.
dang it.
Alvin, Simon, Theodore. Oh, yeah.
You're good. Yeah, Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yep.
Okay, we'll do this one more. Which mischievous orange cat battled dog catchers and rival cats in 1988?
Is it Heathcliff?
And yes, it's Heathcliff.
And
You know,
Marmaduke.
what was this?
Well, that was Marmaduke was the dog. But
You were
Heathcliff.
right.
Okay.
Heathcliff, but this cartoon, if you remember, it was like the first half was Heathcliff,
Mhm.
and then the second half was like another group of, they were called something else. Do you remember? Second half was like these ragamuffin cats. Do you remember?
I don't remember this.
They
I
were
remember
called
Heathcliff and Marmaduke. That was what I remember. But
together?
well, they sort of had an hour. Like Heathcliff had 30 and Marmaduke had 30.
Mhm.
But I guess they ditched Marmaduke at some point for these other cats you're talking.
No, it was just within the Heathcliff half hour. It was split.
Oh, well, I don't remember this. I'm stumped.
It was Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats. Remember, there was one cat that had like a newsy boy hat on with a cane and a scarf, and they rode in like a 57 Chevy type car.
Man, I have no memory of this.
How do you plan on getting us to the city?
Trust me. Hurry up, you guys.
Ow!
Look out!
Whoa!
Oh!
Now what?
Now we need a lot of hot air to blow it up. Yeah, Mungo. Some hot air.
Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats. Who remembers this? Okay, we'll spin it one more time. We'll get another category. Oh, this will be an easy one. Primetime Rewind. Okay, they're not very tough. These are the top primetime shows in 1988. Do you have any answers before I start with the clues?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say Cosby Show, Cheers, Family Ties.
Not Family Ties.
Oh, not Family Ties.
88. I think Family Ties. I don't know. I think it might
Family Ties was still going.
Was it? Okay. Well, it wasn't in the top anymore.
Dang.
But you have Cheers, Cosby Show.
Cheers, Cosby Show. Man, in 88. The A-Team? I'm standing firm on Cosby Show and Cheers.
Yes. Okay. The other ones, we have the central character is brash, sarcastic, and an unfiltered view of life.
Brash, sarcastic, and an unfiltered view of
biting
life.
Humor. So like the touch tone for the show is it's biting humor and unvarnished look at everyday struggles. Balancing family dynamics. I'm purposefully being a little vague. Blue collar roots.
Oh, Roseanne.
Yes.
Okay.
Roseanne. And another one is a college-based spin-off from a beloved sitcom.
This was A Different World.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
One of them is not a sitcom. It's a news program.
60 Minutes.
60 Minutes. And the last one of my favorite shows of all time, if you listen to the show, Jared.
In 88?
Mm-hmm. If I give you a hint, it'll give it away.
Dang it.
Let me see. Ooh, God,
Hour long or 30-minute long?
30 minutes. It's a sitcom. Really great chemistry among the cast. Super funny.
Well, a famous sitcom in 1988.
I'm trying to find a hint that won't give it away, but let's see. It's women. 4 women.
The Golden Girls.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, the Golden Girls.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Well, that's enough of the time capsule.
Well, how old were you? That's a tacky question. In 88.
I was 7.
Wow. Okay. I was 13. Okay.
Yeah.
So, gotcha.
Yeah.
You're watching the Golden Girls at 7?
Yeah. I mean, I was watching any of these shows. I mean, I probably also watched, because it's been on in syndication forever too. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, really a lot of the stuff that I cover on RetroMade, I caught it later than its original release.
Gotcha.
All right. So I'm doing a whole season about John Hughes, the director, the writer.
I mean, pretty much a quintessential 80s presence in a lot of teen kid-centered films. I came to John Hughes through Ferris Bueller.
Okay.
That was my first exposure, and Ferris Bueller was one of those that was a VHS staple. I think I recorded it off of HBO and just wore that VHS tape out. I think it wasn't until later, maybe into the 90s, when I would start to see his name pop up and be like, oh crap. Well, like Home Alone and things, and Christmas Vacation and things like that, where I was like, oh wow, this guy did a lot more than just Ferris Bueller. But he has a distinct flavor, John Hughes. And it speaks to, I think it speaks to Gen X a lot, sort of, because Ferris Bueller was sort of central in my childhood and teenage years as something to try to emulate. But I don't think it was until later that I realized sort of the impact that he had and how much he was actually involved with. So, but definitely just quintessential 1980s writer.
Same. I don't think I realized until later that he was kind of the mastermind behind all of these movies that I loved. And you're very, you're spot on when you say there's a certain flavor, with John Hughes. Mentioning Ferris Bueller, is that your favorite John Hughes movie?
I would have to say Ferris Bueller probably is my favorite John Hughes. And I know that he wrote and directed that one. But of so many of these, he just wrote. Right. He didn't direct, but they all sort of feel similar. Like maybe he could have directed.
In some cases, it was just a matter of a time conflict. So he needed, and then there are themes. He's worked with the same director for a handful of films. So there's some themes in that way. Well, so speaking of which, The Great Outdoors is the movie we're discussing today. Yes. And it was not directed by John Hughes. So let's get into The Great Outdoors.
Let's do it.
June 17th, 1988, PG. It's a 6.6, which is lower than the other ones we've covered so far on season 2, but still very good. Obviously written by John Hughes. He actually, I was mentioning he had intended to direct it, but scheduling conflicts didn't allow for that. And he teamed up with Howard Deutsch. Am I saying that right? Is it Howard Deutsch?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, that's how I would pronounce it.
Okay. And this was the third and final film that was written by John Hughes and directed by Howard Deutsch. Do you know what the other two were?
Well, was one of them 16 Candles?
No, John Hughes
he
directed that one. But it's in a similar vein. They're both teen movies.
I think I know, but
Pretty in Pink. And then Some Kind of Wonderful. And then this one, which is interesting, right?
Yeah, this seems like one of these things is not like the other.
Indeed. This might surprise you, Jared. I had not seen this movie before. I'm pretty sure.
What?
I know.
Oh.
I feel like I've maybe seen pieces of it, but never the whole thing through. It maybe wasn't one that ran a lot on USA or TBS or something.
Well, The Great Outdoors for me is one. We spoke offline earlier about my buddy Alan, who's going to come see me very soon. Since this movie came out in theaters, probably once a week for the past 30-something years, this movie is part of our lexicon. It's in our vocabulary. I don't think a week goes by where we don't mention the old 96er or...
Oh, I forgot about that.
One of the things we do all the time is there's a little exchange between John Candy and Dan Aykroyd in the movie where he goes, "Was that a shot?" "No, that was the truth." "That was a shot." "That was a shot." We quote that back and forth to each other all the time.
I love that.
And it's, so I would say actually of all the movies, even Ferris Bueller, I said was my favorite, The Great Outdoors is a part of my almost, it's up here in my everyday life that I will just throw things like that out. Like when they're the steak. Whenever I eat a steak, I will say, "Well, there's nothing left on that plate but fat and grizzle." Like they talk when they're eating the 96er. And I think that's why when you ask me which movie I'd like to talk about, pick The Great Outdoors, because it's just something that's, and I haven't watched the movie, sat down and watched it in probably 20 years, but it always lives here.
I love that.
I love
that. I forgot about is it possible to consume that amount that amount of food, like the steak scene. That's insane.
You see people on YouTube, of course, who consume massive amounts of food. It's like a challenge that these restaurants put out. I think it's probably possible. Whether it's remotely good for you or healthy is probably debatable. I think
I don't know if it's even debatable.
no, it's you would be vomiting within an hour of consuming that, but I think you could probably be done. It looks like John Candy is a kind of guy who could have put that away.
If anyone, yeah, that's true. Because there's competitive eaters, I suppose. Yes. They might, yeah.
And they're the guys who eat the hot dogs, and dip them in water and just God, and hot dogs too. Another thing, lips and assholes. That's something else that every time I see a hot dog, hey, honey, that's lips and assholes, right?
Now, do you eat hot dogs?
Occasionally, but we get the good stuff. We get like the kosher ones, the Hebrew Nationals.
Yeah. Okay.
So that are made with the finest cuts of beef.
Sure. The finest lips and assholes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
But yeah, that's something else that just pops in my head every time I see a hot dog or something.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't recall ever having, I'm sure I did, but I don't recall ever having eaten a hot dog.
Oh my gosh! I know that you are a vegetarian.
I'm
correct?
Vegan, actually.
Vegan. Okay.
So I eat vegan hot dogs regularly.
Oh yeah. I've had my share of those because my wife, she likes the vegan sausage links and Morningstar stuff and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't do plants have lips and assholes? Because that's kind of what it tastes like to me. When I have one of those.
Oh, well, it depends. They're not all created equal. And
it's true.
True. I think the fixins kind of make it.
Yeah.
But actually, I do recall as a child eating corn dogs.
Okay.
So anytime a restaurant has a vegan corn dog, I will order it because it's like.
And we used to get those when my daughter was smaller. We would get the vegan like corn dog pups. They call them.
Those are so good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like the little bite-sized corn dogs.
Yep.
Yeah. No, those were good. I would sit down and eat a plate full of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hot dogs, man. Well, so I hadn't seen The Great Outdoors all the way through. Jared clearly has, even though it's been 20 years. But for the rest of you, it's possible you haven't seen it, or if it's been 20 plus years for you. It follows Chet Ripley, played by John Candy, a loving family man eager for a peaceful lakeside vacation. His plans are upended when his overbearing brother-in-law, Roman Craig, played by Dan Aykroyd, unexpectedly arrives with his family. As the two clash over their different lifestyles, the trip turns into a series of comedic disasters, from water skiing mishaps to an infamous steak-eating challenge that we just talked about, and a showdown with a bald-headed bear. Through the chaos, both families learn a little about each other and themselves, making for a hilarious and heartwarming getaway. The Great Outdoors.
What a great summary.
Now, I did notice that Dan Aykroyd was the first build over John Candy. I don't think I realized that.
Yes, he was.
Was he a bigger star at the time, maybe?
Well, possibly. I would say Candy and Aykroyd were on very equal footing as far as the comedic stars. I think probably Aykroyd had a great success with Ghostbusters, but it would have been years since Ghostbusters had come out at that point. But maybe he just had a better agent.
Maybe.
And negotiated top billing. So, and by all accounts, John Candy was a very sweet man who probably wasn't going to fight anybody on it.
I was just going to say the same. Yeah. It's funny because we're just coming off of Uncle Buck. Like last episode was Uncle Buck.
Classic. Love Uncle Buck.
Oh, and it was 89. This is 88. And it was wild for me to watch The Great Outdoors where he's playing like literally the opposite character from Uncle Buck.
Yeah. He's the family man and who wants to make his vacation. It's odd too that this movie is very like National Lampoon's Vacation adjacent. It almost could be a Clark Griswold adventure, almost.
Good point. It's like that mixed with What About Bob?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like where you have the uninvited person that you don't want there who comes crashing your vacation.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to thinking about that. I was watching it last night. I was like, John Hughes, a year later, we'd do another vacation movie with Christmas Vacation. And maybe John Hughes just liked misadventures on vacation. And this was another adventure.
Yeah. There was a lot. Yeah. Cause all the Lampoons movies, Uncle Buck it's not really vacation, but mishaps. It's either that or teen movies. It's like one or the other, seemingly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this movie actually, I think it has a little of both of those flavors.
Good point.
Because you cut away to the teen romance a lot, which when I was a kid, I always thought kind of slowed things down. And watching it again, I was like, yeah, it still kind of slows things down.
You're right. And it's interesting because I noticed, so we'll get into the cast a little bit, but so there's John Candy's family it's 2 boys, right?
Yes.
And one of them's name's Buck.
And Benny. Was it Benny?
Yeah, you're right. Buck and Benny Ripley. And Buck is the one that they're in this like vacation town, this like resort type of town. And so there's a townie that he, kind of falls for. And I think I did have tension when he keeps looking at his watch. He's supposed to meet Cammie at 9 or something. And they're still waiting for John Candy to eat this gigantor steak. And it's like, he's like, oh my God, I'm going to be late meeting Cammie and she's going to be mad. And I'm like, if only he had a phone to text her.
Yeah. Oh,
it would all be,
cell phones would ruin 90% of the movies that came out in the 80s these days.
Indeed.
Like you would just get around every conceivable plot point that you could if you had a cell phone in those movies.
Like you could have just texted that person.
Sure.
Be late.
Hey, yeah, my dad's eating this giant steak. I can't get out of here. So, but no cell phones. He's going to pay phones throughout the film.
And he has to show up at her job and be like, where's Cammie? And go find her in the wild.
What's funny about Cammie is that as a teenager, I always got sort of flipped her and Tia from Uncle Buck. Like I would always transpose the two.
Well, they're
is that
similar.
The same girl? Yeah. Very, very similar.
Good. Yeah. They look very much similar.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
Maybe John Candy. Maybe that's his deal. I don't know. Or not John Candy. John Hughes.
John Hughes. Yeah. And even when I sat down to watch this last night, I was like, was this the same girl from Uncle Buck? Wait. And then pulling up IMDb immediately, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, she looks a little different. I mean, but they are very similar looking.
They are. Well, let's see. Lucy Deakins is the woman or girl at the time who played Cammie. She was the local girl and the A&W waitress. What I found very interesting is that she is not an actress anymore.
I saw this.
She was most known, aside from this movie, she starred as Millie in The Boy Who Could Fly. And she originated the role of Lily Walsh on As the World Turns. I've never seen that show, but maybe you all have. But she is now an attorney in Denver.
Holy cow.
Yes, it says partner in the Denver law firm Dunsing, Deakins, and Galera.
Man. Well,
maybe
Katie,
I run into her at the grocery store.
You should have gone and grabbed her and said, hey,
can you? Yeah.
We're doing a Great Outdoors podcast. So that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's Lucy Deakins as Cammie. She was very cute. I liked her. I liked her character.
Yeah. And she was, when I was a kid, I was 13 when this came out, and I saw it in the theater. So the Buck, he was a little older than me, but I did, even though I thought the romance kind of slowed things down, I related to him a little bit because I was 13 and I liked girls a lot. And
did you know?
I would see him and be like, I remember thinking, man, I wonder if I could talk to a girl like that if we were on vacation. And I was kind of pulling for him. But anyway, I don't know where the heck I was going with that, but
Well, it's ballsy. You're on vacation alone with your family, and he didn't want to hug us. It's kind of embarrassing when you're a teenager. And
exactly. And I felt I could relate to Buck in that moment where John Candy, where Chet's trying to hug his son. Mm-hmm. And now I relate to that as a father because my daughter's like, Dad, don't be dumb. Don't be gross. I was like, I just want to give you a hug. What's the problem?
You're never too old for a hug.
No, exactly. And so it's funny how, the movies that you grow up with, they sort of change as the years go on and you start to relate to other people. Like watching that movie last night, I mean, John Candy was probably younger than I am now when he made that movie.
100%. He was probably in his 30s.
Yeah. And I'm watching that going, I can relate to this, wanting my daughter to enjoy herself, or that goofy scene at the beginning when he's trying to fool around with his wife and he's like, hey, the kids are gone. We got the house to ourselves. Come on. What are you doing? These are all things you think about sometimes when you got kids running around. But it's just funny how I start, especially having not watched it in so long, how I was like, holy crap, I think I'm Chet Ripley right now. I'm more Chet than anybody else in this movie. Mm-hmm. So that's just one of those crazy things.
It is. So Chet's John Candy. Chet Ripley's John Candy. Dan Aykroyd plays Roman Craig, his brother-in-law.
Yes.
We were talking about, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I kept forgetting that John Candy's wife and Annette Bening are sisters.
Mm-hmm. That's how they're, good point.
Yeah, and because even last night watching, I was like, wait a second, what is their relationship? How are they? But they don't really go much into that. They share a few scenes where it's like, okay, well they're talking sister stuff, mm-hmm. But for the most part, the focus is on John Candy and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, I even similar to you, Jared, when I was watching it, because there was a scene where John Candy is explaining why he picked going to this particular lake resort in Wisconsin, I think is where they are supposed to be. And he's like, oh, I came here with my dad. And at first I said, why is he saying my dad? Because I thought they were brothers or something.
You thought that Aykroyd and Candy were brothers.
And then I'm like, oh, no, that's why he's saying my dad. Their spouses are related. That's yeah.
Correct.
So we were talking about Buck. He's played by Chris Young.
What's Chris Young up to these days?
Well, nothing past 1998, apparently. He did look kind of familiar to me. He was in several, apparently, Max Headroom episodes.
Okay.
And a 1990 TV show called Married People. But he must just be a regular dude. Maybe he's just maybe he's hanging out with Lucy Deakins.
He might be there in Denver.
Yeah,
you never know. He might still be following her around.
It's highly likely, I think. Yeah. So that is the older brother. Mm-hmm. So John Candy, Chet Ripley, he's married to Connie, played by Stephanie Faracy. Mm-hmm. A lot of episodic TV shows. Mm-hmm. The other movies she was in were Sideways and Temple Grandin. She has a familiar face, but I wasn't like, oh, she's in blah, blah, blah.
I think this movie's the only thing I've seen her in.
Okay. And then we have the beautiful Annette Bening playing Roman's wife, Kate Craig.
Yes.
And we all know who Annette Bening is.
Of course. Yeah. This was a kind of an early role for her, I think.
That's a good point.
This was before she was Annette Bening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I really noticed she really is beautiful, and I think when she goes on later to have shorter hair, it throws me off. Mm-hmm. And I feel like she's been around longer than she has been. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Also, Annette Bening's character at times reminds me a lot of Marcy from Uncle Buck.
Laurie Metcalf's character.
Yes.
Oh, really?
She does. I mean, she's not as kind of weird as Marcy is, but I don't know. There's a similar thing. They both have dressed nicely in nice clothes and everything, and that's just something that comes up because it's almost like you've got this Candy series of years from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles to this, to Uncle Buck, to Home Alone. It's follows this trajectory, and sometimes I transpose characters from these movies.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, and I can see that. Like Rich Lady Clothes, they all have matching Louis Vuitton luggage and bags when they show up in the Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like clearly, and then it's like rich people food.
Yeah, with the lobster tails instead of the hot dogs and
goat cheese pizza. That must have been like
he asked, he's like, what did you say? She goes, no, we're just having pizza. It's pizza.
Yeah.
No, you said something else. Is it goat pizza? What is this? So that's always
love it. But don't you remember that being like on fancy menus, like a goat cheese in things? Like,
yeah,
that must be rich people food from the 80s.
Yeah, goat cheese, man. Yeah. They have that in Grey Poupon. Come on.
Yes. Okay, so there's 2 sons that the Ripleys have. The younger one, Benny, he played Zach in Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And then he was in a lot of one-off episodes of popular TV shows, but just like a one-off character. Yeah. And his name is Ian Giatti.
Yeah. He's kind of a hottie now.
Is he? Ooh, I gotta look it up.
I saw him on IMDb and I was like, well, this guy's kind of handsome looking. And then I saw who it was. I was like, holy crap, that's the little brother.
Let me see.
On IMDb, his picture he looks pretty nice. It looks like,
yeah, he does.
Yeah,
You're
he's like a
right.
he's like a male model looking guy.
You know what it is? I think he must be Italian, and I have a thing for the Italians. Giatti,
there you go.
Yeah, he's got that.
Yeah, he's definitely Italian.
Dark. Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna have to find him in some stuff.
Maybe he's in Denver too.
Maybe. And then the spooky redheaded twin daughters of Roman and Kate. Her name's Kate. Yeah. Roman and Kate.
They go out of their way to make them really weird.
They do because like in and of themselves they're they're just like normal.
Cute, they're like cute kids, but the way they act and the way everybody reacts to them, it's like, oh, these little kids are strange. When Chet's like freaked out by him, and the 2 sons don't really like their cousins very much.
Well, even then their own father is weirded out by them.
Yeah, he does it. That's part of his arc in the movie is that he's an absentee father. He doesn't really get involved with them. So it's really strange. I think are they still acting?
No, they only did one other thing. So they are identical twins. Yes. Hillary and Rebecca Gordon play Kara and Mara, or is it Kara and Mara? Craig. Either way.
Okay. Same difference.
Well, because I feel like in one instance he said Kara, and in another instance he said Kara. So I'm not sure.
He probably did, and they're just like, well,
they did the Mosquito Coast from 1986, which I have no idea what that is.
It's a Harrison Ford movie.
Oh,
The Mosquito Coast. It has Harrison Ford and River Phoenix in it.
Really? How have I not seen that?
No, it's a pretty good movie. Check it out sometime.
We have Wally and Juanita. They're the co-owners of Wally and Juanita's Perks Pine Lodge Resort.
Yes. Funny characters.
Yeah, they are super funny. So Robert Prosky plays Wally. And did you ever watch the show Veronica's Closet with Kirstie Alley?
No, but
you're aware of it?
Yes. And I've seen that actor in a ton of things.
I don't remember. Actually, now I think I can. He played a character called Pat on Veronica's Closet. He was the judge in the 94 version of Miracle on 34th Street. He was in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes.
He was Sergeant Jablonski on Hill Street Blues, which I've not seen that show, but that he must have been a regular on that show.
Yeah. He had a career that went back decades. He was he even pops up. I mean, he's in a lot of those old like black and white TV shows from like the 60s and stuff.
Robert Prosky.
Yeah.
All right.
Just one of those faces, those character actors who pops up in everywhere.
I like it. Juanita is played by Zoanne, Zoaunne Leroy, or Leroy. I'm making it French. I don't know.
Okay.
That's quite a name. I apologize, Ms. Leroy. She's not very well known.
Yeah, I didn't really recognize her from anything.
She seems to play a waitress or a nurse in like random TV, like just like an episode here and there of a TV show, and it's seemingly like a waitress or a nurse a lot. So that's her.
Gotcha.
We talked about Lucy Deakins in Denver, and then there was the waitress with the 96, the old 96er.
Yeah.
The waitress at that lodge is Nancy Lenahan.
Okay.
And she's very familiar. Didn't you think she was recognizable? Did you recognize her from anything?
Nothing immediately jumped out at me, but I don't know. She's probably been in other things I've seen, I'm sure.
She is kind of one of those character actresses. She's been in a lot of TV. She was most recently in Bless This Mess TV show, Veep, My Name is Earl, People of Earth, Grace Under Fire. So she had pretty decent sized parts in all of those shows.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Music by Thomas Newman. What did you think of the music?
Newman. I think it was appropriate for where it was used. I know they used a lot of like songs and stuff in this movie, but the score sort of reacted to the sort of the goofiness that was going on. I think it did what was required of it, but I wouldn't say it's a classic film score by any stretch, but it was fine.
I think I agree. Like I definitely, you all know who Thomas Newman is. Like he scored like The Green Mile, American Beauty, Cinderella Man, The Shawshank Redemption, and Finding Nemo, and then The Great Outdoors. Yeah.
Crazy. Mm-hmm. One of the Newman brothers, David Newman, is also a composer.
Oh.
And
what is he known for?
David Newman, oh goodness.
No, that's okay.
I would have to look it up, but they are brothers, and they are quite prolific.
Mm-hmm.
And still composing film scores, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, good.
So
I'm glad that they're alive and well. That's good to know.
Yeah, they are.
Very good. $24 million to make this, and it grossed $43.5 million, which I'm not sure. So I was reading that this was the 25th biggest film at the American box office for that year.
Okay.
Which doesn't seem to 43.5 million. That doesn't seem to go, does it?
That's not a huge take. It didn't even double its money.
That's what I thought. So I don't know.
I do know that this film is one of those films that took off on VHS. Like once it hit the video rental stores, people discovered it, and I think it's because of the video stores that this movie has become somewhat beloved by people.
You're absolutely right. It was panned by critics, but,
yes, of course.
But you're right. Over the years, it's become more beloved. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
You had mentioned some of your history with this, that you speak in the great outdoors.
Yes.
Versus, how was it revisiting it yesterday?
It was fantastic. I was laughing out loud at parts of it, and in parts that I didn't really necessarily remember and aren't burned into my brain, but just like some of the stuff Aykroyd was doing, like when he's telling the bear story, and then he goes, "Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm 20 pounds overweight. Are you trying?" He goes, "I'm half drunk here. What are you trying to do? Kill me?" It's just, I can hear like maybe one of my uncles saying that. It's just, I don't know why that made me laugh so much, but a lot of the stuff Aykroyd was doing, I thought was really funny. And then too, John Candy, just like when he's just exhausted, like when the horse runs away from him and he's trudging through the woods and he's all red and sweaty, and he's just like, "Hey, I don't know. That stuff was just cracking me up. And then, of course, it's the greatest hits, the stuff that lives in my head always. It was fun to see that. And it was like watching him eat that steak. And I'm like, oh, he's trying to do it in small bites. The bites were really small. And I was like, well, that's probably the smart way. If you're going to try to do something like that, that's probably the way you should try to do it. But
eating an elephant one small bite at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I had a good time. And I put it back on this morning as I was just sort of walking around doing stuff around the house. And I don't know, it's comfortable. It was like putting an old comfortable jacket on, because it's like so much stuff I remembered. But like I said, those bits that were sticking out to me that did not before, just reacting to it as now as an adult with a kid of my own and sort of seeing it through that lens now, it was interesting. And for me, it holds up. I mean, it's definitely, it's 80s. And like I said, I think that the teenage story sometimes bogs it down a little bit, because I was thinking last night, I was like, okay, let's get back to Candy and Aykroyd, but very slapstick and goofy, especially the stuff with the bear. Mm-hmm. Towards the end. But for the most part, I was like, yeah, I still really enjoy this. There was things in it that I was wondering about. They call it the bear dump, where they just go watch bears rifle through garbage.
I forgot about that.
And I was like, is this a thing? Is this a real thing that people do? And I couldn't help but wonder, do people do this at like campsites? Like they just go to where the trash is and watch the bears root through it?
There were several instances where it's unrealistic in so many ways. Like when the bear breaks the door down and is on top of John Candy,
and keeps pushing him.
I'm like, that would kill him, like in real life, right?
But it looked like there was a stunt man under there.
Yeah, I don't know.
So how did they pull that off?
Speaking of the bear, it's Bart the bear.
It is. That's your Legends of the Fall bear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's I thought of that because I listened to your and Ryan's show that you did about Legends of the Fall
on his Ed Zwick's show. So check that out, guys.
So I was going to bring that up because that is the bear from Legends of the Fall.
He was like the bear of my childhood. Bart was in a lot of things. I remember him being in various movies. I don't know. Bart the bear was like a big hit.
Well, I guess if you need a trained grizzly bear, I mean, that's a pretty niche.
Yeah, that's true.
You go to those people like, hey, I need a grizzly bear for this film, and I don't want to die trying to film with a wild one. So what's Bart doing?
Well, yes. Okay. So I don't know where I was going with that, other than there are a lot of things with this that aren't actually realistic. And I don't know how things were in the 80s, but nowadays there would be clear signs: do not feed the wildlife. Don't leave trash out. Like the bear will rip your car door off to get food inside. Do not interact with the bears in any way.
Yes. And yet people go to a field to watch bears rifle through garbage. Mm-hmm. And John Candy's throwing candy bars at him.
He's, come here, bear. He goes,
what do we got? We got a Zagnut here?
Man.
That's ridiculous.
It is.
And one thing I wondered about Bart, they obviously had to put like that makeup appliance on his forehead because he's bald, like right above his eyes and his nose. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was looking at going, man, how the heck did they get that on him? And how does it stay on him? What did they do? I mean, they're not setting Bart in a makeup chair and saying, okay, let's just put this appliance on your forehead, buddy. Let's see how this works.
Well, he must be exceptionally well trained. He was just
I guess out. I would not want to be putting makeup appliances on Bart's head.
Or on his backside. I don't think animals like you messing with their backsides.
That's true.
Even a dog might bite you, you know.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And he had that big old giant bear ass. Mm-hmm. His bear's bear ass. That big old butt when he got shot again by John Candy.
With the birdshot, buckshot, I don't know, some kind
it was a lamp. He picked up the lamp. Remember the lamp was the shotgun, and apparently it was loaded, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was a functioning
Wally,
lamp.
The co-owner of this little resort.
Yes.
And their dog too had porcupine needles.
Oh, needles all in its face. Yes.
I kind of forgot about the quirky. And they're like, "Oh, have you ever given your dog a bath before?" Like they have to drive in the car with the dog.
They're like, "Hey, she loves porcupines but hates humans, and she's in heat. Too bad you're not a dog." That reminds me of when he goes up to the counter, and there's that horn. It says "Blow me for service."
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, blow me for service." Oh, that's interesting. And the whole thing about putting your mouth on this horn that's hanging there.
That other people have.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, who cares? Yeah, let's do this. And then he gives it a good old, he bellows into it and disturbs the whole place. But I thought that was funny.
One of my favorite parts actually was the opening scene. It was so like classic 80s, like the contrasting drives to this cabin.
Yeah.
Of the families. Even the music was contrasting. I quite liked that. That was maybe one of my favorite parts, actually.
They're singing Yakety Yak which sort of goes to, you go a year later and Chevy Chase they're singing Christmas carols as they're driving. And
the Wagoneer was very reminiscent of
the
wood grain station wagon in
exactly
Vacation. Yeah.
Yes. And at some points in the movie, you almost could literally swap out Chet with Clark Griswold, it seems like. But I do remember that I watched this on VHS for years with my parents because my mom loves John Candy. And every time she would watch this scene, she'd be like, "Oh, that's your dad." Because my dad would like to sing and stuff when he was driving and try to get everybody involved. And everybody's just sort of like, okay. Although in this movie, everybody seemed to be having a good time when they're singing along with the song. But that's a memory I have, is that my mom would just always laugh uncontrollably at John Candy doing this stuff.
Aww.
and to this date, my dad still sometimes will go, "Big Bear, Big Bear, Big Bear." Like at the end when he's all out of breath and he's trying to explain what was going on. Sometimes my dad will just do that randomly.
Well, your whole family has the great outdoors. You speak in the great outdoors.
Yes, exactly. That's just, it's one of those just through lines through my family, I guess. Everybody likes the great outdoors.
That was another scene where if only they had a phone, that would have eliminated the need for the scene when the weird redheaded girls get stuck in a mine. And John Candy goes to get help while Roman, like, actually finally steps up to the plate and becomes
he's the hero.
But then he's like, "Oh, okay, we're just going to go back to the cabin." But John Candy doesn't know that, and he comes back.
He's out getting the ropes and stuff, and
the bear's down there. So if only Roman could have texted him and be like, "I got him. We're headed back."
Yeah, exactly. Again, you wouldn't have a movie at that point. But yeah, that was funny. And how I'm not sure that an abandoned mine shaft full of dynamite would be just sort of so accessible, like with the crappy little 3 pieces of wood they had over the covering of it.
Do not enter.
Yeah, do not enter. Oh gosh.
And how did the bear get down there and up?
Yeah, well, the bear got up
with
because
the rope.
Chet pulled him up, and because he's Jesus, Roman, can you help me out here?
I watched this 2 weeks ago. That's why I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. But how did he? Yeah, wild.
Yeah, but I did some research, or I Googled it while the movie was playing, because Dan Aykroyd he was very concerned that it was old, wet dynamite. And apparently old, wet dynamite is extremely dangerous.
Really?
Yes.
I wouldn't have guessed that wet dynamite would be.
Yeah, and it was even like the movie was scientifically accurate, because if you noticed on the dynamite boxes, a lot of them had these crystals. It looked like salt on the outside of them. And that's where the dynamite sweats, and that's nitroglycerin.
Oh.
And that's what happens when dynamite when dynamite is aged and gets wet.
Ah.
And it starts to sweat like that, and it is incredibly volatile in that state. And I would wager to say everything that Dan Aykroyd was doing down there, like moving around, they would have been blown to pieces. Just because there was a lot of old wet dynamite down there, and apparently you can barely jostle it and it would just explode. So,
I mean, that tracks for the great outdoors with all the things that happen with the bear.
Completely.
The
the skis. Oh, that skiing scene is hilarious.
I can't believe how bad it is. Die. No, meaning like, I mean, I don't know if they were like, who cares? Because the stunt person was very clearly very skinny chicken
John
leg.
Candy.
Yeah. It was so obviously not.
Yeah.
It was like the opposite of John Candy.
Well, could you imagine John Candy on those skis? Today's technology, they could have made that happen probably. Mm-hmm. But yeah, back then it's obviously a skinny water skier who's in good shape, maybe wearing a couple of extra layers of clothes.
Like the jacket.
Yeah, they try to bulk him up a little bit, but you look at his legs, and it's like that guy, he's in shape. He knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. That's not John.
And it went on and on and on and on.
Yeah,
like,
they just
for a very
kept going.
Long time.
But one thing that made me laugh out loud last night was he was like calling Roman a bastard, and they thought he was saying "go faster."
Oh yeah.
He was like, "You bastard, you bastard," and his wife's like, he says, "Go faster, faster." He goes, "Okay, let's do it." So I don't know, that made me laugh. Crazy.
Did you recognize the guy? Again, I don't know what the purpose of this character was. The guy who gets hit by lightning multiple times at the bar. He's like the stuttering guy with the streak. I was like, what was the purpose of him being in this movie?
I don't know. Maybe to tell him there was a storm coming, I guess. Because, he's running through the woods and he gets struck again by lightning.
I did smile, though, because did you recognize him from another John Hughes movie?
Well, now you've got me thinking.
Immediately when I saw him, I was like, oh my God, it's Gary's dad from Weird Science.
Holy crap, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the pair that I didn't recognize.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Wow,
so maybe it was just like they wanted to make a role for him to be in this movie.
Sure. Come on in. Be the guy who gets struck by lightning all the time.
I quite enjoyed the raccoons through line.
The subtitles. Yeah. That was actually very clever.
Did you watch it? It was. And even I let it run all the way through there was a post-credit scene with the raccoons.
Oh, no kidding. I just watched it through the dance sequence. I didn't.
There was a raccoon scene at the end. I can't even remember what it was. But there was a final post-credit raccoon scene.
Wow. And that kind of stuff was absolutely rare back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now they do it all the time, but a post-credit scene in 1988 is unheard of.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm trying to think if there were any. So now, because of that, I'm like, well, I better let the credits roll and watch to the very, very, very end for the rest of the...
Well, in another John Hughes film, Ferris Bueller had another scene at the very end where Ferris walks out and goes, "You're still here?"
Yeah.
He goes,
yeah.
"It's over. The movie's over.
Mm-hmm.
Go home." But with Ferris, there was a whole scene that played throughout the credits with the principal getting on the bus and that played throughout the whole thing. So you would have sat there and probably watched it and not just be watching credits scroll on a screen. But yeah, maybe that was just a Hughes thing. Hey, yeah, we'll just put something a little extra in here.
A little wink for people who stuck around.
Yeah,
I very much appreciated it.
Well, I'm going to go watch it after we're done here to see what they said.
Well, he also, another thing, he uses the same names. We have Chet here. We also have a Chet in Weird Science.
Correct.
Buck.
Buck.
Here. Buck and Uncle Buck. What's the story John Hughes? You just like those?
Yeah.
You just like Chet and Buck?
I guess so. Or maybe he just gets into a creative rut, and he's like, okay, well, this guy can be Buck. What the heck? Who cares?
I mean, unless he like in real life, unless it's a nod to people he knows or something in real life.
That makes sense to me. I think maybe that could be part of it. That he would just put maybe his buddies' names into his own movies, just as a nod, maybe.
Do you remember when you first watched this movie? Did you track immediately? Did you predict that Roman was broke when you were a kid?
Well, at 13, I saw this in the theater, so I wasn't picking up on that. Of course, I wasn't reading too much into it, so I didn't really see it coming. But watching it now, I think they drop a couple of breadcrumbs that you can say, well, something's not adding up with Roman. And so, yeah, it's a little more obvious to me now as an adult watching it. But as a kid, I didn't have any idea.
That does make sense. I just had because I've only seen it as an adult, I saw it coming a mile away because they did, to your point, they gave us breadcrumbs. But yeah, I was like the whole time I'm like, how are they going to resolve it? How is this going to come up? So yeah, that was.
Well, one thing I did forget when Dan Aykroyd tells him that story about how he overheard him in the bathroom on his wedding day saying that Roman is one crooked son of a bitch. And I'd forgotten, I guess, that he made that up because I just assumed I totally forgot in the movie that later he confessed to just making that up, and that didn't happen at all. But I think for a long time I just thought, oh yeah, I guess John Candy just lost his patience completely, and he could have certainly said something like that. But last night I think was the first time I realized that. Oh wait, he didn't say that.
It did seem out of character. Like what was shown in the movie, Chet is like such a nice, like a good-hearted person that you're like, that seems odd, but
Chet can be pushed, and I think we saw him at his lowest. I want him out of here. That he is ruining everything. He's a jerk. I don't like this, and it just, I think for most of the time he handled it remarkably well. If you just had somebody who you were like, oh gosh, that whatever friend you have who you need a break from. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're going to hang out all week. And you'd be like, oh, that's great.
I would have been so pissed because they didn't know it was an unannounced visit.
Yes.
And he had very carefully picked this place for a week, and then it's your like in-law brother that you don't like anyway. Yeah, it'd be hard to keep your mouth shut in that scenario.
Yes, absolutely. But he held it together pretty well throughout most of the film. I mean, when he first shows up videotaping with the giant camcorder on his shoulder of Chet undressing his wife. It's like, okay, that probably would have been it for me. But it's one of those things, even back then, seeing it as a kid, I could relate to, oh gosh, that would be the worst. If somebody you didn't like showed up to just ruin your vacation. So, and not to mention the fact that he kept changing everything. He got a jet boat instead of the pontoon boat.
That's right.
And he wanted, and his sons would rather hang out with Uncle Roman than him, and all this stuff. So just a nightmare scenario.
They both played their parts very well. And I think Annette Bening played, I really think that even the kids were all right, but particularly the adult actors really, I think, played the family dynamics, like just little things I picked up. I was like, oh, that seems pretty realistic.
Yes. I thought everybody did a great job. And I liked Aykroyd he was definitely attempting some certain way of speaking. Like, really, yeah, that's right. Not that he talks like that, but just sort of this obnoxious, shit, I gotta go introduce Mr. Thick Dick to Mr. Urinal Cake.
That's a pretty good impression. What is it like shyster stockbroker accent?
Yeah, just sort of like a car salesman type of guy. He's already going to talk like this. And then John Candy he's pretty much, John Candy has kind of a baseline, and he turns it up a little bit this way for Uncle Buck when he has to be completely clueless and a goofball. But then he does have sort of like the family man, Clark Griswold persona,
right?
Where he's sort of this put upon person, and he amps and he goes this kind of a different way with it. Although I think his character in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is a little more like Buck than his character in Great Outdoors.
Definitely. Yeah.
Although his character in Planes has more of a sad story than Buck, who's sort of a loser by choice, and his character in Planes is he's really trying to be a better guy. But,
true, but both have a bit of a lack of self-awareness.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in this movie, he's very even keeled. I think he's the straight man.
He is
in this movie.
Which because I hadn't seen this, and when I was doing the research for this, I was like, oh, Dan Aykroyd is playing the Bill Murray Bob. I guess I don't know why, because I had just seen Uncle Buck is probably why. And so I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. And it's all, like I said, sometimes that's why I interchange characters and attributes, because all these movies happened within a 4-year span. It's like
yeah, you're right. And even it's sort of like the casting is they're kind of interchangeable. I was reading that both Chevy Chase and Bill Murray were considered for the part of Roman.
Yes. Chevy Chase was shooting another Funny Farm,
which are very similar movies that came out 2 weeks apart in June of 1988. Funny Farm and The Great Outdoors. Isn't that?
That's wild. And all with this pool of actors who all sort of intermingle in other movies too. So it's easy that's why I get this era confused a lot, because it's Chevy Chase, Aykroyd, Bill Murray, John Candy. They're all sort of weaving in and out of each other's orbits at this time.
They are. I was also reading that it was a 3-week production shoot, which seems very small, like short. That's right?
Very short. Goodness gracious.
I don't know a lot about movie making, but I was kind of surprised by that.
Well, they definitely shot a lot of it seems, the indoor stuff, I guess that was probably on a stage, obviously, but they were out in this place in California that they were shooting.
Yeah.
And John Hughes, I always think John Hughes does confuse sort of the geography of the places that he's shooting, because I think, to me, the place they are looks very much like a California wilderness with the mountains and all the big trees and everything. Now, in Wisconsin does have mountains, but they're not as pronounced as what you see in the Great Outdoors. And it's the same with the beginning of National Lampoon's Vacation. They're supposed to be in Illinois somewhere. Illinois has no mountains whatsoever. It's like all farmland. And they're driving around looking for the Christmas tree in this mountainous wilderness, in which they actually shot up around Winter Park in Colorado.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting. Okay.
So there's John Hughes likes to substitute a lot of these very mountainous areas, but he wants his people in Chicago to be able to commute to them easily. So he gives the geography those attributes.
Yeah, and the raccoons, I love one of the parts. I think my love for Chicago is rooted in John Hughes from my childhood, because I absolutely love the city of Chicago, which is why I think partially I thought it was funny that the raccoons were like, oh, we're going to be eating good tonight. The license plate says Illinois if they're from Chicago.
Yeah, we got Illinois plates. And me too. When I was 20 in 95, me and my buddy, Alan,
Same one.
the guys I've talked about before, and another buddy of mine, Josh, we we went to Chicago and we're going to do the Ferris Bueller tour. We just went up there for 4 days, and we were also big fans of the Fugitive movie with Harrison Ford, and a lot of that's in Chicago.
Is it? I haven't seen it in a long time.
So we picked these locations from the Fugitive and Ferris Bueller, and we walked around. We went to Wrigley Field and watched some Cubs games and just had a blast. And that's mostly because of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And it's funny that John Hughes, his movies, and it's funny that these characters in The Great Outdoors, you never see them in Chicago, but they're from Chicago.
They very purposefully show us the license plates.
Yes. So I think he has a great affection for the city of Chicago, that even if his characters aren't going to be there, they're going to be some connection back to Chicago.
It's his trademark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you pointed out that they actually shot in California. The movie setting is a fictional place, Lake Potawatomi. It's like really long. It's
strictly for laughs.
Yeah, I
is.
Think. But it's shot in Bass Lake, was where they were in California. And according to the locals, some said that Annette Bening was kind of demanding.
I read that as well.
That Dan Aykroyd was mostly polite, but very aloof and kind of difficult to the actual townspeople. But big shocker, John Candy has a reputation for being very approachable, friendly in real life, and gotten along very well with everyone. And the townspeople said he was a joy to work with. So that was good to hear.
Yeah, he seems like a teddy bear. And it's good to hear that people had that experience with him, because that's sort of how you picture him in your head. If I ever met John Candy, I would hope he would be nice to me. And it sounds like that's the way he was.
Yeah, I'm very happy to hear.
That's cool. Yeah.
The original title, I guess, was Big Country.
Big Country.
What do you think about that?
I think The Great Outdoors is a much better title. Of course, that's what I've lived with for 30 plus years. So I like the Great Outdoors.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
Yeah. Big Country sounds like it could be a Western or something.
Yeah, or like something about like country music star or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I think The Great Outdoors is a perfect name for this film.
Thanks to Jared for joining me to reminisce about 1988 and The Great Outdoors. Do you have any closing thoughts for us about this movie? And then tell us where we can find you.
Well, thank you, Katie, for having me today. It is a pleasure, as I'm on the cusp of my 50th birthday, looking back on a seminal film for me, thinking back how I was very happy I get to share these stories of me and my friend just still quoting this movie to each other to this day. And it is funny that this particular movie, and not really any of the others, but this is one that has just kind of followed me around and lived in my head for so long. And it was a lot of fun to talk about it. Loved it.
It was fun for me too. I can't believe I hadn't seen it. And my God, the next time we podcast together, Jared, I swear to God. So listeners, every time Jared and I do a show together, I have some sort of technical issue. My power went out for Backdraft. My internet went out for this. So I don't know. There's the universe.
So
we had a struggle getting here today. Like it was. Yes. The universe against us.
Let me say that I also completely forgot that we're doing this a week late, because it popped up on my phone last week and I was nowhere near my house. And I was like, Katie, but I'm so happy that we finally got it together. We conquered the gremlins that were giving you technical issues, and we got this sucker down.
We did.
So who knows what will happen next time? I mean, good grief. Maybe an earthquake or something. I couldn't
Don't
even
put
imagine.
that out there, man. Don't do it.
Sorry.
But listeners, thank you for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this episode, please do me a huge favor and tell a friend and or share the show on social media so that other retro fans can join the fun that we have here on RetroMade. And until next time, be kind, rewind.